All right, we are streaming, and I want to thank everyone for joining us tonight. This is a very special reading. Of course, they're all special, but these are our first full-length collections from Harbor Editions. And for me, that's a really big milestone. And so it's a pretty awesome night for me and for Kristin and Darren and Harbor Editions. If during the reading you have any questions that you'd like the authors to answer, after the reading, you can put them in the comments, and after we'll have time for a quick Q&A session. So I want to start by introducing Darren C. Demaree. We were talking last name, so I think I got it right this time. And his book, A Child Walks in the Dark, is his 16th full-length collection. Jennifer Franklin writes that A Child Walks in the Dark is a collection of fables for our time. And these fables feel to me like a love letter, not just to parenthood, but to fatherhood. And what drew me to these poems was the children, how they came to life on every page and how I came to know them the more that I read. But what keeps me and holds me inside the book is the father, the lowercase I and the refrain, I told my children, that begins each poem. The Child Walks in the Dark explores the mystery and delicacy of fatherhood. The father says, I've been treading water next to wreckage and bodies of the ship I was once tied to. The father also says, I am hopeful. Please join me in welcoming Darren C. Demaree.
Thank you, Allison. And getting to read with Kristin for the second time in 2 weeks is pretty fantastic as we get to celebrate tonight. Thank you to Allison, Harbor Editions, and the process of a book can be daunting for sure. And this one wasn't that daunting at all. It's been fun. It's been enjoyable. And I'm really happy that after a long time spent with these poems, they're finally just so pretty, just so pretty. And I'm excited to get to share some of them with you folks tonight. I undeniably can't stop reading the first poem first, so allow me what has become the default. Those junk plums. I told my children those junk plums left at the bottom of the grocery bag were not perfect when we put them in the bag, but they were on sale and good enough for a family that doesn't get many plums. Now that they are mangled and losing their juice to the bottom of the thin green bag I struggled so mightily to remove from the dispenser, we are still going to cup their mangled flesh in our hands. We are still going to eat them, however inelegant that might be. We are going to pour the remnants into a tiny cup. We are going to celebrate the fact that there is still fruit in this world. That won't always be the case. One of the best things of having children that are getting older is how they find their passions in books and sort of go on their own path with reading and discovering. And my oldest has started to rival me in terms of book consumption, and I appreciate that. So this poem is, if you want to read all of the books. I told my daughter, if you want to read all of the books, the best thing to do is to memorize one of them, and then slowly misremember the names of all the characters, learn many languages, and translate the text in your mind many times over. After a while, the names will all disappear. The pronouns will fold into each other. The actions will simplify. The descriptions will become your own. Eventually, you've been living the all story, and the library will feel exactly like a church. So I got, when I was in grad school for the first master's in creative writing, I had a performance poet who was teaching us named Chris Cheek. And he would do these incredible things like put an ice cube in our hand and have us write a poem before the ice cube melted. Or walk around town and record all your thoughts that you say in front of people for an hour and get a poem out of it. And my final project for his class was taking a passage from Nabokov's Mary and translating it from language to language to language over and over again, Spanish back to English, to French to English, and so on and so forth. And what happens in this poem is actually what happens if you keep translating things over and over again. Names disappear, pronouns start to change, only little bits of action and the sort of the framework maintain. And if you do it 20, 25 times like I did, it becomes an incredibly different story, and it ends up being fascinating. Highly encourage playing with language translators if you're stuck writing a poem. It is fun. Next, I'm going to read the truth. The roots have risen up away from the trunk. I told my children the roots have risen up away from the trunk, and like your brain seeps, the tree's structure seeps as well, and searches keep searching even in the spring, because the nourishment doesn't come from the good black or the tall blue visiting. It comes from growing until you bump your head on the ceiling, until you are a giant in your own world, and that will be the first part of your lives. The second, the third, the fourth, and the fifth will be learning how important it is to lower yourself, to make yourself a ramp, to feed the rising of the people around you that first decided all these roots were a good thing. The self-removal. I told my son the self-removal is an acceptance of your own refraction. You will become 6 men in 16 different worlds, and you can't possibly police all of them, so become none of them. Be an agent for every person in every world that needs you. Keep your hands warm. Keep your shoulders loose. Forget what your face looks like. Say I love without a name attached. Embrace that none of this is nonsense. Defend your right to be a tide only to destroy nothing but your own ego. This poem I read last week at the Wild and Precious Life series, and I think Dustin liked it enough. It's going to end up being featured in Limp Wrist, which is great. This little poem that I love so much never got published individually, so now it's in a book, and it's going to be on Limp Wrist as well. So I'm very excited about that. It's called You're a Witch. I told my son, you're a witch if you want to be, but do your best to be a good witch. And if you find the right dark magic, please don't tell me about it. Show me. Okay. We're thinking about all my friends down in Kentucky or from Kentucky, and everything that happened the last week. I've got a poem that's based on the idea of Appalachian, Ohio, and Kentucky, and different places. So I'll read this tonight with them in my hearts, them in my hearts and my mind. That coal. I told my children that coal was a mountain fever, that men had ridden the blood of the mountain into the valley and then flooded the valley so that they could pick up the paychecks off the dead bodies that floated there. And those bodies that felt the rush of cool water before they expired, they were the lucky ones. And that coal in America is our fourth saddest slaughter story. But for some reason, very few people have had to answer for the body count. So if they really want to, my children are welcome to tell anybody that manages or own coal to fuck right off, because language is important. And I don't want them wasting those words on anybody that doesn't deserve it. If you want to be a ball player. I told my daughter, if you want to be a ball player, you will need to learn how needless it is to have a pristine body, because they never get all the rocks out of the field. And this game is dull and pointless if you don't throw yourself into the grass like it's the ocean. And I know you love the ocean the same way your mother does, but she was never a ball player because her parents gave her the ocean. I don't have that kind of money. So you will need to treat each game like the tide. I was really happy when we had a finished manuscript and these two poems were able to be a page apart from each other. This is Her Body. I told my daughter her body is no narrative. Her body is an ocean and a moon, and there is no freckle, no nail, no strand of hair that she is not in charge of. And that means that if we do this right, she will continue the proper revolution that leads to her lifting up the whole of our government in her hands and shaking them the way they so badly want to shake her. And if she doesn't stop until their tongues are flags in the wind, then that is her decision. Because I'm not raising an American or an Ohioan, I'm raising a girl that will become a woman, and she will know her body is whatever the fuck she decides it is. And any sail that any person tries to stick in her back to change her path will be burned in a pile I give her when she no longer needs me to write such things. I'm going to read two more, and it's two of my favorite from the book. And it's one of those things where when I was putting these together, I actually started from the back. I knew how I wanted the book to end. And this second to last poem was just so ornery and loving. And I think when these poems work best, the energy and music pushes you not just towards that ultimate feeling of hope and love, but something that encourages the idea that children are just ordinary as hell. They get experimental and they try these things, and they're children that walk in the dark because they can't see everything in front of them yet the way that we can. And you can't show them the whole picture, even if sometimes you want to be protective at the utmost. But what you can do is make sure they know, no matter what, that you're on their side. And that this is going to be fun. It'll be hard, it'll be sad, but it's going to be fun. And this second to last poem really sort of underlines. So I was really very happy that it was the second to last poem. And then I built the manuscript from there, and then got to work with these lovely people and make it everything that it could be, which, thank you again. This is You Should Tell Me Now That You Don't Care. I told my children, you should tell me now that you don't care, that you're going to be fire starters and con artists and painters, that you only need me for alibis, so I can let you know now that I'm your man. And if this is going to be my adventure, to follow you and watch your synapses fire quickly all of the time, fire incorrectly and beautifully all of the time, then I'm in. Don't hurt children. Don't steal from poor folks. Do not plagiarize anything ever. Do you hear me? Other than that, I'm willing to do a couple years in jail if it means you will get to dance around this universe like you've got something figured out. And to end with the last poem in the manuscript, and definitely one of the times where writing this poem sort of helped me figure out exactly how the whole project could work. And what I hoped the other poems could sort of play off of. There could be interplay between them, and you could find a way to make the whole thing a project that could really sing in the end. This is, you might choose to read these poems. I told my children, you might choose to read these poems in the bareness and anxiety of your young adulthood, while you search for me in the thousands and thousands of poems I have written, so that I could explore, so that I could explain, so that I could hide and lie about some small terribleness. And it gives me endless joy that you will find me here, right now, as bare as you are, but feeling no anxiety at all because I am with my children in some small way in the future, when I love you even more than I already do. Because that's how real love works. It grows with the epic. It encircles the epic until you cannot tell why or how any of this began, but you know that if there is such a thing as a soul, it exists to be buoyed by moments like this. Thank you, everybody. This is fantastic. Thank you again.
Thank you so much. Our next reader is Kristin LaFollette. She is a writer, artist, and photographer. Hematology is the winner of the 2021 Laureate Prize, selected by Missouri's Poet Laureate Karen Crago. David Dudley writes that the poem seemed to rise out of some fleshy bed, and yet what we get, at least in part, is nostalgia. Hematology is, as you might imagine, about blood and the body, but blood runs like a current under the skin of family through the passageways of place and home. Kristin writes, I remember the frosted ground I was formed from. She continues, what I'm talking about here is circulation, the harvest of blood. Hematology is a lifetime in verse, a collage of pumpkin seeds, charcoal, bourbon, water, and blood meant to explain and understand lineage. Please welcome Kristin LaFollette.
Thank you so much for that introduction, Allison, and thank you for sharing some of your poems from your collection, Darren. It was great to be able to read with you 2 weeks in a row. I'm really thankful to Harbor Editions for publishing Hematology. It's truly been a joy working with all of you. And I also want to thank Hillary Jones McCullough for the gorgeous image on the cover of the book. In some ways, this all still feels like a dream, and I can't believe this collection is even out in the world. But I'm so appreciative to all of you for being here tonight, and I can't wait to share some of these poems with you. So first, I want to share a bit that my friend and fellow poet, Rosanna Alice Boswell, wrote in her blurb for Hematology, because I think it really captures what the poems in the collection encompass. She writes, at its heart, this collection is about family, what we inherit and what we take on. We see both the pain of belonging and not belonging as the speaker reveals more and more about herself. First, in relation to the bodies around her, as sister, as daughter, then gradually defines herself more and more from her own internal sites of knowledge. So this book is broken up into 3 sections. The first is really about family, the things that have brought us together and that we've shared and that we've experienced. And the second section is really self-reflective, kind of grapples with these ideas of like identity and understanding the self and anxiety. And the final section is dedicated to my best friend, Deanne, who everybody referred to as Cohen. We were best friends since childhood, lived together all through college. She was my maid of honor on my wedding day. I mean, basically, she was a part of our family. She was my sister. And she passed away in 2017 after a 4-year battle with a brain tumor. So I will read a couple poems from each section this evening, but I'm going to start with the last section. So these next 2 poems are for Cohen. So the first one I'm going to read is called Sometimes I Call You My Sister. Sometimes I call you my sister, and other times I call you the girl with many names. In the early moments, I felt as if I could still touch you, even as that which had already touched the insides of your eyes became more visible to the rest of us. First, there was the stitching, a spider consuming an insect, then the black patch. Was it your right eye? With the center of your eye opened up, I felt as if I could reach in and pull it out. The flattened mass of iron and thread that made your mouth like that of a deer, quiet and consuming the flowerless plants and dew of fields not belonging to her. I hoped for 10 years because I read about people who had made it that long. One person, 23 years. Enough time for me to marry and know the adult version of you. You were there for the marriage, but 4 years later, gone. I wasn't there when it happened. Would you have heard me whispering through the water and cool season grass? Would you have felt me in the end, willing you to be bodied, lifting you up out of your own faulty limbs and veins? The other one I'm going to read from this last section is called Phone. I have an antique telephone, the kind where you press your finger into the numbered holes and turn the dial to make a call. The black cord is intact, but it isn't plugged in. Still, somehow, I imagine you'll try to reach me on it. You've not called in almost a year, but I don't know how to reach you, so I wait and wait and wait. It's been so long since I've seen the real you that I sometimes forget the blackness of your hair, the thickness of it, the way it lost its curl the longer it got. I think I might not remember the color of your eyes anymore. Brown? Green? How many times had I seen them and not even thought to register your irises in my mind? If you call, I might ask about your eyes, or maybe I'll just apologize to you again for the time I broke your camera, dropped it on its open lens in the hallway of a movie theater. Or maybe I'll tell you that the whispering you heard in your ears all that time, the whimpering you heard that sounded like a scared animal, that was me. That was my voice. And I said over and over again as your body began to fail, that I would hate to see you go. Okay, so I'm going to read a couple from the second section now. So really the poems in this section focus on what it means to be human and embodied, to exist in a body. The poems talk about illness, anxiety, worry, and something I'm quite prone to, which is overthinking. The first one I'm going to read is called Medical Leave. I've always been fascinated by anatomy in the human body, as you can probably tell from the title of the book being Hematology and the many anatomical references in the poems throughout. But in high school, I did a year-long internship at the hospital in my hometown and went on to major in pre-med in college. And spoiler alert, I changed my major to English my senior year of college and went on to get a master's degree in writing right after that. But during the final year of my doctoral program, I got really sick and nobody could seem to figure out what was going on. And I was really frustrated with myself because I couldn't understand what was happening and didn't know how to advocate for myself with all of the medical professionals I was seeing. But after about a month and a half, my family doctor finally realized that I had mono. So this poem is about that whole experience and my interest in anatomy and the body. So this one is called Medical Leave. For weeks, I kept the back of my hand to my forehead to remember the heat of fever and thought, I have a biology degree. I should know where the spleen is located, or at least what it does. But it wasn't until the swelling with white cells and lymph absorbed from the body that I realized we are all in danger of rupturing, even if we don't take the stairs or carry boxes weighing more than 10 pounds or participate in contact sports. And really, rage and disappointment are the ways we flush our bodies of the things that make us ill. And for weeks, I could feel the warm tiredness of so much edema, a pain felt in the molars and the bottoms of my feet, but I accepted the sleep because fire is sometimes necessary to rid the ground of the things that threaten to decimate it. So the next poem focuses on those themes of identity and anxiety that I mentioned earlier. And this one is called Occupied. I've never thought of myself as calm. Once a nurse carefully removed an IV from my arm and held pressure. But once the gauze was released, the bloodletting began, and there wasn't even enough of us to stop the flood. Things are always as bad as I think they will be. I am aware of the expanding and contracting behind my breastbone in the same way a person with a leak puts a bucket under it. Once the blood flowers begin to form, there's only so much time to stop the bruising from becoming a map of impulse and germinating seed. The point is that I only feel a sense of quiet in the bodies of others, my own mouth made from gun smoke and suture, destined only to wound and be wounded. All right, so the last poems I'm going to read are from the first section of the book. So I am trying to find my place here. So I'm the only daughter in my family. I have only brothers. And so this first poem is really a tribute to women, their physical and emotional labor, and the ways they hold families together. So this one is called On Being the Daughter. I was born losing pint after pint of blood, and even now, I can't quite catch the breath that's always been shallow and weak in my chest. I am the person in the middle, flanked by men, and because of my sex, I take on the emotional labors of them all. If it's words that are needed, I give them. If it's history that's needed, I have it. And if it's space that's needed, I'll be the absent one. You'll be able to remember me by the bees on my tongue, the darkness of my eyes, and my thick with water memory. My hands contain heirlooms, and I cherish them, name them one by one, hold them close to my body for protection. This is something never understood, my daughterness, to be middle and female in a family of men, a lineage of wolves, water that rose so slowly no one even noticed. If I'm the only one who notices, if I'm the only one who doesn't forget, you'll find me with the trees like a pact, like an inheritance. Okay. So the next one I'm going to read is just about family connections, what families hold and what they share. So this one is called The Organism's Phenotype, and it's for my family. I've always known the colors of blood. In a field near our house, a deer with its organs removed by my father's hands. The purple red meat, a damp smell like brown leaves and bathwater. I was the adult. The pouring of it all out of an open wound in my brother's head. I knew the brothers had blood shining and slick on the linoleum floor of my mother's kitchen. Recognized it when, at 17, I saw my own blood fill a plastic bag in a high school gymnasium. To fill another body, I learned typing as a lab assistant. Be positive, liquid like a full hot sea. What we breathe is air, blood from bone. We are made of letters. All of us letters, a pedigree of small rooms. Okay, the last one I'm going to read is the title poem for the collection. So in 2017, we welcomed my niece into the family, and it was just this beautiful, unforgettable experience. I was actually doing a photo shoot, since I do some photography on the side, when my mom called to say the baby was coming in the morning. And so I actually finished the shoot and drove through the night so I could be there when she was born. So after I saw her for the first time, I wrote the first draft of this poem in the waiting room. And it only seemed right to use this title for the whole collection, since these poems are all about the body and blood and love and grief and loss and welcoming. So this poem is called Hematology, and it's for my niece, Madeline. When I see my hands, the discrepancy of shape, the way my skin swells with the weather, I remember the frosted ground I was formed from. I've seen new life planted and dug up, a child born not in the usual way. There was summer August heat, thick with water, but no hot blood, no sweat from skin or human sounds or breaking of flesh. An unearthing of sorts. A child pronounced girl at birth, a girl with a name I felt in my mouth. The girl child and I share something, and if it's heavy breath, I will give her my best air. We'll stay in this place where my labor has been kept. If I exist here, I am most myself in October, when I smell the nutrients that joined me with someone else, the particles that fill me in the cold. What I'm talking about here is circulation, the harvest of blood. If another girl is born, I will be thankful for one more thing to keep me here. Thank you all so much for listening. Thank you, Darren, for sharing your poems. Thank you, Allison, and everyone at Harbor Editions for making this book a reality. Thank you.
Thank you so much for reading, and thank you, Darren, as well. And thank you to everyone who's watching. We did have one question come in, and there's still time to type your questions if you have them. This one was for Darren. It is, the cover art on your book is so interesting. Who is the artist, and how do you see the cover image as being connected to the poems in the collection? That's a hard one.
The artist is Laura Page. She's a poet as well. Her full length came out last year. But she does these incredible, she does some real life figures as well, but she does these incredible abstract pieces. And I've tried to work with her for book covers for a couple years now. And have purchased every attempt she's made. But actually the cover for this one as well, I purchased that from her, and I asked for it to be framed for Christmas, so it has mysteriously disappeared. So here's hoping. Anyway, so yeah, she lives in Oregon, and she does incredible work. What you see on the cover is really about the bottom right part of the painting. There's a little more explosion of the black and the tan, sort of the interlocking fragments that she uses. And I believe the original title for the painting is Madrigal. But we got to use it, and I was thrilled. How it ties into the themes in the book, there is so much, for something that's abstract, there's so much conflict, and so much light and dark sort of working both in concert and against each other in the cover, that it creates that sort of atmosphere that I think the themes of the book play off well, in my opinion. And the fact that these you folks who haven't gotten your copies yet and want one, these are incredibly well-made books. And so you can, when you hold it close, you can see the brush strokes, the feel of it's fantastic. So all in all, I was thrilled that we were able to use Laura's art and that it ended up as great as it did.
Yeah, I love that you can see the canvas, you can see the texture in the cover image. Kristin, do you want to talk a little bit about your cover image and how it came to be?
Yes, this was like the most painstaking, I feel like, part of putting this all together, because I really wanted something that was going to represent the book well and just kind of like, I don't know, encompass everything that I wanted people to know from looking at it. But I had previously, so a friend of mine, so I went to Bowling Green State University in Bowling Green, Ohio. And when I was there, I worked with a poet named Annie Sidgick. And when I moved here to Indiana, she connected me with an artist in Florida who was looking for someone to help her write a grant to get some money to do a photography project. So I helped her do that. And I was just like so in love with her art. She ended up sending me a print in the mail, which is beautiful. You can't see it. It's on the bookcase behind me, but we worked on that project together, and it was a really great experience. And then I'm the art editor at Mud Season Review. And so she ended up doing some artwork for us for one of our recent issues. And then it only seemed natural to reach out to her to see if she was interested in doing the cover art for this, because her photography is just amazing. And I told her what I was looking for and kind of what I was hoping for in the image. And she sent, I don't even know how many images she ended up taking, but she did a whole series and sent them all to me and said, pick which one you like. And so this is the one we decided on, which I think is just totally beautiful and I love it. And her name is Hillary Jones McCullough. She has a website where you can purchase her artwork, and she just does amazing work in photography. So that's a little bit about the story behind that. I'm really interested though, because I wonder where she found because this is a photograph. So I should have asked her where she got the skeleton model. I know she works at a university, so maybe someone hooked her up. I'm not sure, but yeah, that's a little about the cover.
Mm-hmm. The other question is, where are the best places to pick up the books? The easy answer is Amazon. You can get to them through our website, which is Small Harbor Publishing. And are either of you two selling copies yourselves and want to tell people how to get those?
Other than the folks who are getting sent copies for the very generous things they did in helping make the books. Yeah, and anyone interested in a signed copy, DM or send a message, and happy to send one your way.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, same. I would be more than happy to send signed copies, other than the ones I'm already sending out for people who wrote blurbs and did the beautiful cover art and all those things. But yeah, I would be happy to do that. And if anyone is watching who's local to my area in Southern Indiana, I will be doing a live reading at the University of Southern Indiana on February 3rd. So you can also get a copy from me then.
Mm-hmm. All right, I think we are question free at this point. So I want to thank you both again, and everyone who listened, and make sure you follow us on Facebook and subscribe on our website to get all of our updates. And thank you very much.
Thank you.